Well, hello everybody, this is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to your critique of the week. It's Friday, March 28th. Thanks so much for joining me. We've got a wonderful critique coming up for you today. Let's see who we got in the house. A whole bunch of people here. We got Steve Horrell, we got Lynn Schilling, Brian O'Sullivan's here. Hey Brian, we got Amy Redacted. Dr. Q's here, Jamie Thomas, Rose Lenard, Dick Westheimer. Hey Dick, we got Patty Arbor. We got Darlene's Place. Let's see, Maney, D. Coleman, Amy Dower Solorzano, Winston Munn, Sharon Ferrante is here. Let's see. Who else we got? Shape of Soup, Ali Rowland, PMB, good morning to you. Tom Barlow's here, Hemet Malik, all the way over in Australia. Deb T is here, Phyllis Sherritt, Kimberly Gibson, Tran, back last week. Great to see you. Lisa Seidenberg, John Victoria, Jerry Stephenson, Bethany Jarmel. So great full house we've got today. Thanks everybody for joining us and doing this critique. As always, this is giving that workshop experience. It's so valuable to everybody. Letting people have honest, helpful feedback on their poems is what really makes makes MFA programs worthwhile and makes writing works groups worthwhile. And we can do this every Friday. It's also a chance to give feedback on submissions. Everybody always wants feedback, but it's impossible to do when you get 500 submissions a day or whatever it is we get. So, but we can, if we do it publicly, we can inform everybody all at once. We can help everybody get better, and then that's a productive use of our time too. So lots of birds with a stone. Now, interestingly, Kimberly Gibson Tran sent two revisions of last week's poem, and I wonder if we should do those. I didn't look back at last week's though. We kind of got a tight schedule this morning, running up on the thing. I wonder if you should do that or wait till next week. Let's take a look at these. Hang on one second, we'll pull it up. And so as always, what we're going to do is say what works and what doesn't. Any suggestions anybody has, feel free to leave as many comments as you can. I'll pass them along, but of course the people watching, the poets, can look at the chat window and see the comments themselves too. And so anything you think, just pass it along. And, I see what it is. This is even better. And this is a very big difference too. Okay. So what we have, because Kimberly very nicely included both the original submission, which was a very short poem, if you remember that, and then the new version. Remember we asked her, it's all coming back to me now. We asked her to flesh it out because we wanted more of the story. And I'll first, without scrolling up there, we'll look at the original. And thanks, Kimberly. It makes it a lot easier that you included the original. I really appreciate it. Let me go to the screen view. So this is the original submission, and this was Eat. This is to refresh everybody's memory. I was not born to the world that warps in the glass of proffered water. Actually, I'm going to make this screen a little bigger. Oh, wait, maybe I'll zoom in here. Hang on, sorry. Like that's better. Okay. I was not born in the world that warps in the glass of proffered water, full of sound without meaning, cadence and of jaw, thumping air, the sudden hunger to understand, warm hands around mine, light moving into a bowl of rice. Now and then a catch in the void, throat of wet air thrumming. Kin, she is telling me, kin. And I remember we had trouble, parsing this out. Eventually we figured it out, I think, with the help of Kim. That this was the discovery, being immersed in a foreign language, and finally discovering what a word means, and that feeling of that was what this was evoking. And it sort of all made sense once we got to that point, because Kin It was a tie for eat. And so that was the original poem. But we said for this, the details are interesting. It's a great topic to write about, but it feels like there wasn't enough story being told. And we really wanted the story. And so now Kimberly has provided the story. And so this is a much more fleshed out version. And this is the village now. Hey, hang on that. All right, a lot better. Okay, so this is the village vermilion, and it's the revision of Eat. Now we have a prose poem of pretty good length too. So let's see what we learn this time. So strange, the world that warps in the glass of offered water. I take it with both hands as someone taught me once. We are in a woman's home high on a mountain. Memories begin the slow drift back. The floor is hard-packed ground, the color of rust, and out of the bamboo doorframe piglets run, grunting. I've been gone so long, my mother and her friend, a translator, unfold a picture book. The three women are reading the images together, tracing invisible words on the first pages, a swirling galaxy, a storm-rocked sea. Then a mouth, a dividing light. Through the slats of the wall I can see a boy in a tree. The tree is dotted with blossoms that lick in and out of the cracks of light like tongues on fire. I remember to step carefully over the threshold. Just outside, a grandfather reclines, sipping from a giant pipe. His earlobes holes are the longest I've ever seen. Through the blue of his opium, he tilts his chin toward the flame tree, the kids laughing underneath. Their feet are ruddy with dust, a cloud building up. I know the game they're playing with a rope of strung rubber bands. You stretch it between two people and jump the pattern. A kind of spongy cat's cradle that goes up several levels, starting at the ankles, moving to knees, hips, chest. The kids talk at me fast and thumping syllables. I take off my shoes and try the steps. I do well. They cheer as I cross a level. Every time my feet skim the bands, a shimmer shower of red. I cross all but the narrow at the neck. The boy in the tree hands me a shiny pink fruit shaped like a pear or a curled lampshade. At last I catch a word in the void, a throat of dense air humming kin, kin. He is urging me to eat, telling me to kin. Well, that's really interesting. So a lot more details here, and we definitely feel like we're taken to the place. It feels a lot different, how I was at least picturing the description from the last poem. It feels like really, calling it a revision is a lot. I think it's a whole new poem, which is really interesting too. I think to me, I think there are a little bit too much detail in the storytelling. There's a part toward this in the middle section where it sort of got to be like I was waiting for sort of something to happen, kind of the action, and I got a little bit distracted there myself. And then I think too, my initial impression is the end doesn't feel as inevitable based on like what we talked about last week. And so I think maybe, the sense of not being able to find the words, I think in the description of it, coupled with what we had last week, there was sort of the sense of like swirling, being lost in the language that you don't know, and then finally understanding a word and that feeling of that. And here, I think there was so much description of the physical that I think it's sort of missing description of that language sea that you're sort of swimming in. We have, a swirling galaxy and things like that. But it's a bit of it in this section. But I think like amplifying that and focusing a little bit more on that and a little less on the surrounding details would make the poem feel a little more complete when it gets to the conclusion. But that's my initial impression. What does everybody else think? Let's see. Shape of Soup says more like a formation. Interesting description. Descriptive needs a stronger through line. I guess maybe that's what I was saying too. It needs... And Dick said too, slows in the middle. Yeah, at the end, it feels like we're sort of swimming around, not really with a clear destination. Then we get to the end, which makes sense, but it doesn't feel like it was always going there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and Ali Rowland too said I would like the one of the three women to be the one saying kin rather than the boy. Yeah, I think that's a great comment too. So we have this little bit. So most of it, we're showing this whole scene, and the scene's playing out. But then this one little bit is the really relevant part of the detail. It's the women reading the images together, tracing invisible words. On the first page, a swirling galaxy, a storm rock sea, then a mouth, a dividing light. And then we go to the boy in the tree. And I think, I don't know, I just think we want more, the old man's ears I got bogged down with. Yeah, I think there's just too much surrounding detail that doesn't get to the heart of the poem. So I think it's one of those things where let's read through maybe sentence by sentence, and we'll talk about which ones sort of contribute to the end and which ones don't. And I do agree. I think that's a great comment by Ali, or Ali Rowland, that I think the women saying that would be better, because it makes more sense with them. They're the ones you're trying to hear their language. So let's read it again and see like what adds to the poem and what descriptions are sort of just there, adding to the scene but not really contributing. The village vermilion, so strange the world that warps in the glass of offered water. See, I like that. So we have the offered water, and there's a gesture to that too. So it's nonverbal. I take it with both hands as someone taught me once. We are in a woman's home high on a mountain. I think that's sort of setting the stage in a nice way. My memories begin the slow drift back. The floor is hard-packed ground, the color of rust, and out of the bamboo doorframe, piglets run, grunting. I've been gone so long. My mother and her friend, a translator, unfold a picture book. So, is the translator connected to trying to learn the language? That's something that didn't really make sense to me either. Like, is that a relevant detail to the story? Because if so, it's not clear exactly why. Unfold a picture book. The three women are reading the images together, tracing invisible words. And who's the third? So wait. So it's the woman's home, the mother, and the translator. And so I don't know. I mean, like these are kind of the relevant things, like the setting and why is there a picture book here, and why is there a translator? Why is my mother and her friend here with me? Like, what are we three doing? So I think that's still not clear. Let's see. The three women are reading the images together, tracing invisible words. On the first pages, a swirling galaxy, a storm rock sea, then a mouth, a dividing light. Through the slats of the wall, I can see a boy in a tree. The tree is dotted with blossoms that lick in and out of the cracks of light like tongues on fire. I remember to step carefully over the threshold. Just outside, a grandfather reclines, sipping from a giant pipe. Yeah, I think I would, the grandfather detail, if we come back to the scene and the language, maybe explain a little bit more about the trend and the translator and what the setup is here, and the sense of being lost and not knowing the language. I think if we turn, I think the giant pipe, that detail, you're painting the scene, those are interesting details, even though they don't directly contribute. They contribute to establishing the feeling that you're there. But then I think it was someone, that Winston Munn said that we get lost in this, and this is where we get lost in the details. I'd say too, his earlobe holes are the longest I've ever seen. We don't need to know about his ears, the blue of his opium. He tilts his chin toward the flame tree, the kids laughing underneath. 3 feet are ruddy with dust, a cloud building up. I know the game they're playing with a rope of strung rubber bands. You stretch it between two people and jump the pattern. A kind of spongy cat's cradle. See, all this is like, could be details for another poem or something. Like there could be multiple poems in this scene and this topic and this trip, whatever it was. But I don't think this is where I don't think it was adding to the direction the poem wanted, the story that the poem wanted to tell, Yeah. And so, anyway, so another game they're playing with a rope of strung rubber bands. You stretch it between two people and jump the pattern. A kind of spongy cat's cradle that goes up several levels, starting at the ankles, moving to knees, hips, chest. The kids talk to me fast in thumping syllables. See, so the kids talk to me fast, like that, and everything that has to do with language. Like once we've established sort of the scene and where we are, we're at this house, we have some of the details so we can sort of paint the picture. The details that matter then are the language things, the fast thumping syllables. It's not clear that you don't, that you don't know what they're saying, even though that's their fast thumping syllables. I mean, we can sort of toward the end, with this and kind of knowing what we read before, we know that, but I don't know if that's clear. I take off my shoes and try the steps. I do well. They cheer as I cross a level. Every time my feet skim the bands, a shimmer shower of red. I cross all but the narrow at the neck. The boy in the tree hands me a shiny pink fruit shaped like a pear or a curled lampshade. I like that description. At last I catch a word in the void, a throat of dense air, humming, kin, kin. He is urging me to eat. I think I would, for the rhythm and the length, I think the poem feels better without this last clause. I think kin, kin, he is urging me to eat is a better ending than repeating the kin. Yeah. Okay, let me see what everyone is saying. PMB's got a good idea. PMB says, sorry, I was typing on the phone. Maybe make kin, kin a refrain. Be encouraged to kin by the woman, but 3 women, then by the old man, then by the kids. Yeah, I think maybe if kin appeared earlier, and maybe not necessarily by everybody, but maybe the kid, you could frame it where you do some of this description. If you want to keep the frame where you could start with the kids and they're saying kin, but you don't know what that means. And maybe that, and then you can describe some more of the situation and then go back to the kids so that it's sort of framed by the kids, and maybe that makes it work. Let's see. Sheba Soup says this poem could be the descriptive source of an entire chapbook. Yeah, I think it could too. Yeah, it's a very vivid scene here playing out, and there's a lot going on. It's still unclear. There's a lot more to explore and explain because we don't really know. Yeah, Winston Munn says if you could find a way to introduce kin earlier. Yeah, and I think maybe we could do that. I mean, we could have the children say that at first, and then describing some of the scene becomes like a middle section where we know the significance of it a little bit more, and we learn a little bit more of the story, and then come back to finally realizing it and that emotion of that. Yeah. Ryan McCarty says, last week there was a question about poems that set up a context for each other in a collection. This rewriting makes me want to see both these poems to keep living side by side. See where that goes. That's interesting too. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, hopefully that was helpful, Kim. It's really interesting to see a revision of it. I still think, to me, I don't think it's quite done yet. It hasn't found the direction, but I like that we get a lot more of the story, and it's a really interesting story. I just like to know even more. Emily Arnold Fernandez says, if you do write multiple poems about the scene, I wonder if kin could be a through line between them. That's a good suggestion too. Yeah. And when someone suggested closing haiku, maybe to add something also. Yeah, I mean, it could be, and that's and we love Haibun, as you know. So making it a Haibun could be work. Yeah. Yeah. And as Kimberly here says, these are helpful thoughts. I can see there may be too much material for one poem. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be putting in here. And it sounds interesting. I mean, I really want to know the backstory. Especially too the mother and the translator and why it's been so long. I can't remember how it was phrased, but it's been a long time since I've been back. And so I think that was part of it, right? And so I'm just curious about the whole context and stuff. It's something I'd like to know more of. Okay. Okay, well, let's move on. But thanks for sharing that. It was interesting to see it so soon after a revision. Thanks, Kimberly. And let's go to another poet now. And I'm going to go back to the oldest poems in the queue. The oldest one is from October 27th. So we always want to catch up as much as we can. This is Brenna Farrell. She's got The Warrior and the Dragon. And I think did we glance at this last week? I think we did decide not to do it. The Warrior and the Dragon for Heroes. I'm really getting bad about labeling these things, I think. Did we do The Warrior and the Dragon? I gotta be better about that. Here. Because I remember there were a bunch of poems that were similar. I think we quickly went through this. Yeah, The Warrior and the Dragon for Heroes. This was last week. The Brave Warrior came into that dark space. Yeah, so I guess I just forgot to label it. Yeah, let's go to the next poem. And next up we have... this poet is Kathy O'Toole from Concord, California. Kathy's got a couple questions. I work on Friday, so can't attend the Critique Live, but want to express my gratitude to all involved. I have learned so much from watching every week. There's an Easter egg in the poem entitled "Without Trying, I Am Looking at You Every Day." I've left some space here so you came back to see what I try to do. Thanks again. Also, I thought it would be interesting trying a reverse golden shovel poem. If you take the last word of every line, it makes up the bones of the poem. Okay. Let's see what these are. Without trying, I am looking at all of you every day. I should move. Here we go. This. Let me kind of shrink this one down a little bit. Okay. Without trying, I am looking at all of you every day. I should move. Interesting title. Away from Aunt Betty's cherry wood table. Your mom's antique carpet. Away from Dad's shadow-boxed flag. My mom's red rocking chair. Away from your footprint in the hallway, left there when you stepped in the unfinished varnish, the past stuck here between a cave with history on the walls, or one without all of me. So, let's see. Without trying, I'm looking at all of you. Every day I should move. Away from Aunt Betty's cherry wood table, your mom's antique carpet. So I'm a little lost. I'm a little lost with who you is. So without trying, I'm looking at all of you every day. Who are all of you? So when I get to your mom's antique carpet too, I'm confused by this as who the you is and who we're talking to. Yeah, and that's what Jamie Thomas says. I don't get it, and I think that's why we're left out of that aspect of the poem. Away from Aunt Betty's cherry wood table, your mom's antique carpet. Away from Dad's shadow-boxed flag, my mom's red rocking chair. Away from your footprint. So these are just descriptions. Is this so to all of you is like the family I'm fleeing, and these are some of the details, some of the items in the house that I'm leaving. Yeah. It's even has some nice lines. Yeah. I mean, Arnold Fernandez says, I think all of you are all the people mentioned, Aunt Betty, your mom, my dad, etc. Yeah. Yeah, and D. Coleman says, "Move the I should move" to the first line. I do think it's it's sort of strange in the title there, but it doesn't necessarily not work. Okay, so anyway. So away from Aunt Betty's cherry wood table, your mom's antique carpet, away from my dad's shadow-boxed flag, my mom's red rocking chair, away from your footprint in the hallway, left... See, no, but see, we don't get the you, though. I still, it's not... All of you is not the same you here. Is the you me? Who's you? Away from your footprint. Whose footprint? In the hallway, left there when you stepped in the unfinished varnish, the past stuck here between a cave with history on the walls. I like that. I like a cave with history with all on the walls, or one without all of me. Yeah, Rachel Grief says, "Is you a husband?" Yeah, I think it's one of those poems where I can feel. Somebody said, was it? Yeah, it was Rachel Grief. So they can really feel this piece. Yeah, I can feel the emotion behind it. Yeah, Manny says, I think the you is a life partner. Yeah, we're just a little too lost in what the story is. And again, we talk about this all the time. A great way to do that is getting more in the title. Although I like the title, but we don't really have enough of the stories. I mean, why are all these things significant? There's a very big remove with a poem. Like there's a lot of distance, and that we're not really allowed to cross the distance. Amy Dower Slorsno says, I personally enjoy a direct address poem. I know some folks don't care for you poems, and I think just naming the you, lover, friend, etc. will open up the poem for us. Yeah, I like direct address when we know who the person being addressed is. We have some sense of that. But I think it's just so distracting trying to think about who you're talking to. Like it really, when it's ambiguous. And I think maybe there's ways to play with that's productive instead of like ambiguous that's like distancing and fails with connection. But I think in most cases, not having the you identified, like, if it's a dear someone, there's a lot of great poems that are dear, whoever it is, dear mom, and then the poem runs and we know it's talking to the mom, or dear reader. If that sort of is established, those direct address poems really work, and there's an intimacy to that. But if it's not established, if we can't figure that out, we spend so much time trying to piece together the context and the what we're supposed to feel about it, that it's really difficult. And it doesn't feel, it goes from feeling really intimate when we know who we're talking to very the opposite. What's the opposite of intimate? Disconnected or something from it when we don't know who the you is. So yeah. Amy Redacted says it could be built on, yes, but the skeleton is there. I agree too. And by that, I feel some emotion in this poem. I don't know what it is or where to put it, but I feel that there's something real behind the poem, which is always half the battle. Jamie Thomas says, is she looking at the inherited items that are in their marital home, like the heaviness of the past, erasure, great themes, but I need more concreteness. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if there was a sense of I'm leaving these things. Yeah. And also Deb T reminds us, she said she had told us with the Easter egg was in the cover letter. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. The Easter egg here. There's an Easter egg in the poem. I've left some space here so you can come back to see what I tried to do. Yeah, I'm not sure I follow that. Okay. What is, let's see. Oh, Emily Arnold Fernandez says, I feel the idea of heirlooms making the narrator feel guilty, not able to get rid of furniture, etc. she doesn't like because of the guilt that it came from a relative, but more explanation would help. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, so we don't know, but the I should move makes it feel like she's leaving, like moving out, like it's a divorce poem, and she's leaving these things behind. But the fact that we're talking about it, we don't know, that's the real problem. So set it up so we can know, and then the end might have more resonance. So, people are saying the last lines, I can't remember who it was saying the last line didn't really have a way that like sung and like hit at the end, And if we knew that, the context, it might feel better and might figure out how to make the ending work. I like the line, let's read the very end again. Away from your footprint in the hallway, left there when you stepped in the unfinished varnish, the past stuck here, between a cave with history on the walls or without all of me. So yeah, so I still don't know. It's confusing, and whether or not she's trying to get rid of the furniture or the speaker's getting rid of herself. I don't know. Yeah, so I just don't know. I think there's too much missing context to appreciate the poem and its fullness. Like, we can sense there's some emotion there, that it's a real topic that has meaning and weight, but we aren't let in on the weight enough to know to feel it too, to have that real empathy kick in. Let's take a look at the second poem. We'll see if and again, it's always nice to look at two poems. So we can see if there's the same kind of thing or if it's just a one-off issue, Amy said that this isn't a divorce poem, though. And I don't know. I really don't know. It might not be. But the moving out thing, it's definitely a lost poem. Yeah. Yeah, well, to me, we'll go back for 1 second. To me, I think the I should move... if that's not literal, if it's just an aside, is it just about getting rid of the stuff? But then I don't know. I like more context. Yeah. Okay, well, let's take a look at the other one. And the other one is this: I am, I can. It's a very short poem here. I am, I can. I am the child in the rubble. I am the soldier bearing trouble. I am the child gassed in the shower. I am the soldier hate devours. I can see the other and despise. I can see myself in another's eyes. Yeah. Yeah. So this poem, there's the rhyme that's running through the poem, and that's kind of what's got. We don't have, unique and concrete and interesting details are kind of missing here. So we have a sort of a general, I am, I can, I'm the child in the rubble, I'm the soldier bearing trouble, I'm the child gassed in the shower, I'm the soldier hate devours. I can see the other and despise, I can see myself in another's eyes. There's a sort of a riddle quality to it. Like I think the child in the rubble and the soul and is a little bit cliche, and then the rubble trouble rhyme is a little sort of obvious. But when it adds up to the end, I can see the other. There's sort of a riddle that kind of is fun to chew on, I'd say, in this at the very end. I can see the other and despise. I can see myself in another's eyes. Yeah. Dick Westheimer says, music, yes, context, not so much. I have to fill in too much. Yeah, I don't know. There's a feeling of a yeah. The Shape of Soup says needs meaningful context, meat, something the reader can bite down into. Yeah, I mean that's what both these two poems lacked was real context and meat, as Shape of Soup was saying. Yeah, Maney says feels incomplete to me. And Ryan McCarty says, how does the I can work here? And that's a question too. I'm not really sure. Some people were wondering if it was a Holocaust poem. Emily Arnold Fernandez says this poem seems to make an equivalency between a child Holocaust victim and a Nazi soldier, as if each hatred were equivalent. Is that what the poem wants to say? Winston Munn says I don't get a sense of discovery in this poem. Rachel Grieve says the Milgram experiment result as a poem. Yeah. Dick Westermer says maybe the title could be very specific. We have one poem that this reminds me of in Rattle. Oh gosh, what's her name? Sorry, I'm forgetting her name. Gosh, I see her face. It's like hard. I can't remember quite the title or the poet's name of it right now. It's like hard. See if I just put. I don't think I'm gonna be able to come up with this one. Oh, I found it, and it's Janice. Okay, I kept saying Janet, which was throwing me off. Okay, so this is the poem I was thinking of. It's real men don't take no shit from nobody. And let me just little colors. Okay, this is Janice D. Sodeling. This is 12 years ago. We had real men don't take no shit from nobody. And then we have this similar kind of rhyme scheme with the punchy rhymes. So ready, this is the poem. Real men don't take no shit from nobody. White man, black man, yellow man, grief, doctor, farmer, soldier, chief, hittin', spittin', cussin' hard, bury their wives in the cold graveyard. That's from Rattle number 37. And, what this poem does, notice how this poem works because of the big movement in it. You have this list of things, and these are, of course, real men who don't take no shit from nobody. and then all coming through the same thing. They're doing different jobs, or they're hitting, spitting, cussing hard. So we have this use of really tight rhyme, this really choppy feel to it. But then if it just ended here or something like that, it wouldn't be great. But it's the way the poem slows down. It becomes more of a sentence, and they're all doing the same thing here: bury their wives in the cold graveyard. And that makes the whole thing resonate about how no matter how shitty you are, you still have the same end. And there's a lot to say here that comes up in the poem. So that's the kind of turn. If you're going to have something, a setup that's so musically oriented, you still have to have some kind of movement, some kind of transition to something different. And that's what really, think of a haiku. We have the two worlds in one breath. We have some kind of setup and then the punchline and a joke. You need a sense of movement like that. And that's what this poem does in a really, really punchy, simple, short way, by going from hitting, spitting, cussing hard to this sort of sadness of bury their wives in the cold graveyard. Yeah. And so that's the kind of direction. But notice too, we have everything is pretty concrete. White man, black man, yellow man, grief, doctor, farmer, soldier, chief, hitting, spitting, cussing hard, bury their wives in the cold graveyard. There's not a lot of explication. It's all detail, even though it's really quick detail. Everything is adding to this little story. And if we go back to the other poem, I'm the child and the rebel. I'm the soldier bearing trouble. I'm the child gassed in the shower. I'm the soldier hate devours. I can see the others and despise. So we don't have like a sense of register shift, like that other poem. And we don't have like a sense, it hasn't gotten to the end yet in an interesting way. As Emily Arnold Fernandez says, the other poem, that bury their wives makes you think of domestic violence. Yeah, it definitely does. Anyway. So I think this ending is what to do. And we can also add, something more interesting with the title. And I think that would help a lot. Okay, that was, once again, a couple poems by Kathy O'Toole. And next up, we'll look at this is Maite Bourgeois from Quebec. Okay. This is Smoky Suns. And no questions, a pretty long, long lines poem, prose-ish type poem here. Let's take a look. I think it's called Smoky Suns. Let's try to fit it all on the page well. No, it does. Okay. Kind of. It's tight. I bought cigarettes. I don't smoke them. I'm waiting for a special moment, a moment where I might think of you. Right now, they sit on my shelf, though I guess it wouldn't hurt to just take one. One from a pack of 24. I counted them all. I open the pack carefully, and I pick every single one out. I bought the brand you used to like, the one with a red band around the top, the brand you liked when the smoke swirled from your mouth into my hair. I don't know if you still smoke. I don't know anything about you. I'm too far away, too singular in a pack of 24. Because one won't make a difference. If I just pull it out of the pack, the others, too tightly crammed, will fall into place. I hope you didn't stop, though, because then it would be a waste of not crammed enough space. If you didn't smoke anymore, I would lose every part of you I ever had. 2 months ago, I burned the shirt you left at my place, the one with a stretched-out neck I used to sleep in after bad dates. I don't know why I did it. Stacy told me to. She caught me crying in bed when she came back home from her parents' place. She stroked my hair as I silently felt my body let go of me, of you, of us. I burned the shirt because it reminded me of you. 6 months later, and it still had a smoky hue. Now I crave anything that is yours, your touch, your laugh, your being, anything at all that might make me feel a little bit less like it's a pain to be living. I don't think I'll ever smoke it, a waste that was, those crumpled up bills I had to pull out of my jeans, the sound of the pennies skating on the counter as I babbled the brand and shamefully walked away. What a waste of a person the man must have thought as he sucked the breath out of his own cigarette. I would like to be able to say I never did open the pack, break the seal that released you from it, but that's not what really happened. I pulled one out, I rubbed it in between my 2 fingers, felt the paper crease and crinkle, the small grounded bits of tobacco clinging to my thumb, coating it with your unfinished smell. Unsmoked. It didn't really count, and one wouldn't hurt either way. Or would it? Would it break my heart? And would I hide it away in hopes it wouldn't tear itself apart all over again? Would my soul sink to the bottom of my being like it did when you left? Would the drags be the last thing that made me smile? The puffs, would they ever last? The last cigarette you smoked was on my balcony with an umbrella over your head. The last moments of bliss before a storm, a flurry of smoke. Smoky suns, the days that await me seem to be filled with smoky suns. One wouldn't hurt. It would burn my throat and pile in my lungs, a thin coat to vaporize every next breath. But one would lead to 2, and 2 would never fully lead back to you. So 2 would turn to 3, and then eventually I would just be me, alone in an alley, putting out the last cigarette butt with my worn-down running shoes, sitting there under a smoky sun, an empty pack in my hand, wondering if I picked out the right brand. Okay, so this poem, yeah, this is a really interesting example, I think, of the writing process in progress. You know, how it tends to work for a lot of people, is where you have this putting it all out on the page. And there's really good stuff in this poem. Yeah, as Rachel Grieve says, I think this could be really moving if it were shorter. And it sort of, and other people have mentioned, it repeats itself a lot, like we go over the same topics. And so what we do is we take this, we sort of get it all, just purge ourselves on the page, don't even think about it, because that's the way, you know, one of those great things that Bukowski said is don't try on his tombstone. And if you're just getting it out, you're not trying to make it too poetic, you're letting yourself be surprised by what you say, you're in that sort of meditative flow state, letting it go, and then the subconscious pulls out stuff that's interesting, more interesting than the things that you already are thinking about, and that's great. So we have that. And the concept of this poem, you know, I bought cigarettes. I think that's a better title than Smoky Suns, first of all. If the title was just I bought cigarettes, I didn't smoke them, you know, and then the details about the cigarette are really strong. And I think, yeah. But it goes on too long, and we take too many side streets, too much like moralizing. If we focus on, you know, the cigarettes themselves and don't repeat ourselves, I think it's a really great poem, actually. You know, and so Sharon French says it needs something surprising to turn into something different. I'm not sure that it does. I think it's all here. You know, because we sort of slowly reveal, you know, why these cigarettes matter, and if we do that, there's a real sense of movement and that we've gone somewhere with the poem. Amy Dower Shalorno says, I really like the casual voice and short declarative sentences. I don't smoke them. I'm waiting for a special moment. Yeah, and somebody, I don't know if it was Amy, said that they appreciate the direct address poems. Here we know who the you is. And you see know the difference? If we don't know if the you is I or me or the reader, we don't feel connected. We're just lost. But if we know we're talking to somebody specific at first, it's revealed by the end of the poem who we're talking to the whole time, it feels really intimate. I mean, there's a casual, intimate nature of this voice that really works. And so, yeah. So really, this is about condensing this poem. I think this poem could be a third the length, maybe. You know, if we don't repeat ourselves and we just focus on the images and the story of the cigarettes and then the little bit of context that swirls around it, I think that becomes a really powerful poem that's really memorable. And like I said, I think I bought cigarettes could be the title, and then I don't smoke them. I'm waiting for a special moment, a moment where I might think of you. Right now, they sit on my shelf, and I think maybe we could describe them a little bit more. Like, what do they look like here? There's an opportunity to sort of see them on the shelf a little bit. What else is on the shelf? Just a little small, but one sentence there would make the poem more vivid and come to life more in the scene. Though I guess it wouldn't hurt to just take one from the pack of 24. I counted them all. I opened the pack carefully, and I picked every single one out. There's some verb tense issues, too. We just move in time a lot, and it's a confusing way, I think, a little bit. So, you know, maybe just make it all in the immediate open, like actually pick them up instead of in the past at one point I picked them up. Yeah, I bought the brand you used to like, the one with the red band around the top, the brand you liked when the smoke swirled from your mouth into my hair. I don't know if you still smoke. I don't know anything about you. I'm too far away, too singular in a pack of 24. See, that's a nice detail that's surprising, that like you're one of the cigarettes, which is, you know, the metaphor. And I assume, you know, it's definitely a relationship that ended. You know, someone's heart was broken, and you know, maybe there are too many, you know, unfaithfulness, and maybe being too singular in a pack of 24 is a cool metaphor for that. Yeah. Mary Ellen Custer, there should definitely be some smell in a poem about cigarettes. Yeah. And so, but then, so this is all nice. We could cut out a little bit, like I mentioned, but mostly it's working here. I think, let's see, because one won't make a difference if I just pull it out of the pack. The others too tightly crammed will fall into place. I hope you didn't stop, though, because then it would be a waste of not crammed enough space. I think the waste of not crammed enough space, it's awkward the way it's phrased, but I like the idea of it. That's interesting. If you didn't smoke anymore, I would lose every part of you I ever had. I think 2 months ago I burned, so I think this maybe, I would focus on the cigarettes maybe and not this other burning, you know, the shirt, because I think this is less compelling and a little more like pat or cliche, you know. Yeah. So this is the part I would cut to get the poem condensed. But I like that I don't think I'll ever smoke at a waste. You know, So as long as we can get rid of the redundancy, I think we have a poem here. And that's all that's all we're going to say about this. It's like, it's great to get all on the page, then just cut all the stuff that's not necessary to the point and the real thing that the poem was trying to tell, which is how you feel, the emotions surrounding this one pack of cigarettes. And it's a great thing to talk about. Yeah. The last line here, some people are asking about the last line. So, alone in an alleyway, putting out the last cigarette butt with my own worn running shoes, sitting there under... Oh, wait, no, that's not right. No, it is. Sitting there under a smoky sun, an empty pack in my hand, wondering if I did pick out the right brand. Yeah. Yeah. So, Winston Munn says this would be redlined into a fine poem. Yeah, I think that's just a great way to put it. So, if we cut out the stuff that's not directly servicing the story, it's a really nice poem. And I think that's it. There's too much there. In these sections, we start to really repeat ourselves, what we already know. And I wanted to point out, too, if I can find it, there was a part where it was really sort of wordy and sort of the telling instead of showing the emotion. Where was it, though? Yeah, like here, I think this isn't the part I was thinking of exactly, but now I crave anything that is yours. I think that's fine. Your touch, your laugh, your being, anything at all that might make me feel a little bit less like it's a pain to be living. Like you want, in the poem, you want us to feel that by feeling how much you feel about the cigarettes. You don't want to tell us that. Like that's the show don't tell thing that is the main writing advice, is demonstrate that with a poem. Don't say anything at all that might make me feel a little bit less like a pain. It's the pain to be living. We know that from the poem and what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. And so there's stuff like that too, to cut. And I guess this is section 2. What a waste of a person the man must have thought as he sucked breath out of his own cigarette. I would like to be able to say I never did open the pack. Yeah. Anyway, okay, we're going to move on, but that's the gist. This poem, yeah. Rahaf says less drama and more dramatic. Yeah. Okay. So that's that poem. Once again, the poet was Maite Bourgeois from Quebec. All right, let's take a look at another poem. And next up is Joshua Barnes from Chicago. Joshua's got one poem for us. Instagram, he puts there. If you want to follow on Instagram, it's JSB1800, JSB1800. Check that out if you would like. If you like this poem and want to be friends. And the poem is Saturnelia. Here we go. Saturnelia. 2 a.m. Steam creeps through rusting pipes, clanging like a Christmas ghost, haunting this hotel that overlooks Central Park, where we drain the afternoon worshipping Helios, greedily soaking up his rare December sun on our bare faces and still snowless sheep meadow. 9:45, we play tribute on our feet to winter gods, to the Gesam Kunstwerk of Wagner. Gesam Kunstwerk of Wagner beneath the crystal Sputniks of the Met. 12 a.m. bass bombards us in the heated terrace garden of a trendy bar. A first-year DJ spins overproduced Britpop. We raise champagne toasts, eyebrows he pumps out, beats for a distracted crowd. 2:30 a.m., kept awake by the dissonant thuds of vapor tiptoeing floor to floor, the front desk unable to move our room. The goddess of the night, daughter of chaos, celebrates. We give in to the hunger of our bodies. We supplicate to Nyx and to Eros, seeking Athena in each other's steel hands. So that's this poem. This is Saturnelia. And Saturnelia is that the pagan, what started, it became a lot of the Christmas traditions? Am I thinking of the right? A one-day event to add honor Saturn, the Roman god of farming and the harvest. It included a sacrifice of young pigs at a temple dedicated to Saturn, which were then eaten in public. What time of year was Saturnalia, though? Yeah, in December, around the time of the winter solstice. Okay. Okay, there were some mock kings, no work, reversal of roles, a suspension of the normal order, with slaves being treated as equals and masters serving them. Many of the traditions associated with Christmas, such as gift-giving, feasting, and decorating with greenery, have roots in the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia. Okay. So that time of year. So for this poem, I get like we're building the scene up, and I don't understand a lot of it. Again, it's so often it's just what's actually going on and why does it matter is like just the question. You read a poem and that's it. And we get the details. We're set in the space a little bit, but like why certain choices are made. Does it matter that it's Saturnalia? Why is it 2 a.m. at first? Steam creeps through rusting pipes. Rusting pipes are always kind of a cliche. Do something different with pipes clanging like a Christmas ghost. That's nice. Haunting this hotel that overlooks Central Park, where we drain the afternoon worshiping Helios, greedily soaking up his rare December sun on our bare faces in still snowless sheep meadow. I'm not sure. When I got to this point, the scene is being established. I'm sort of on board. I'm wondering what the point is going to go, but I assume there's going to be a point, and I'm looking forward to it at this point in the poem. The still snowless sheep meadow. I'm not sure. That was my first sort of question mark. Is there something called sheep meadow in Central Park? Maybe that's something I just don't know. But I was a little bit the specificity of that seemed a little strange. And then I don't know why we go from 2 a.m. to 9:45 p.m. Is it? I mean, that's the next night, I guess. And then we go to midnight, and then we go to 2:30 a.m. again. So it's like 12 and a half hours. I'm not sure what the significance of that is. We pay tribute on our feet to winter ghosts. Oh yeah, I wanted to look up this German word. The Gesamtkunstwerk. I love learning words though. It's great. This is a Gesamtkunstwerk means the total work of art in German, refers to a concept where various art forms are integrated to create a unified and immersive artistic experience, often associated with the operas of Richard Wagner. So maybe that's something other people know. And then there's the Wagner. I'm not going to say it again, of Wagner beneath the crystal Sputniks of the Met. And then we go bass bombards us. So it's like this journalistic thing of the dancing and the music that we saw over this 24 and a half hour period, I guess. Bass bombards us in the heated terrace garden of a trendy bar. A first-year DJ spins overproduced Britpop. We raise champagne, toast, eyebrows. He pumps out beats for a distracted crowd. And they're really great details. Like each little nugget, I'm placing the scene without that many words. They're very descriptive and concrete, like we always ask for. So that part is there for sure. Kept awake by the dissonant thuds of vapor tiptoeing floor to floor. The front desk unable to move our room. The goddess of the night, daughter of chaos celebrates. We give in to the hunger of our bodies. We supplicate to Nyx, to Eros, seeking Athena and each other's steel hands. I don't understand why steel hands. I think there's a lot of sex going on in Saturnalia. I think that's part of it too. So that's what's going on there at the hotel. But I just why? Why is this story? Why did this have to be told? And that's the question that I asked. When I used to do this by hand instead of flipping through poems quick, I would say so what? and so what is it? So we describe this. What can I learn from it? Why were you compelled to tell it? What did you learn from it? Why was this story something that needed to be told? And there was a reason why you chose to write about this. Something compelled you to think it was interesting. But what is that? Why is this something that needed to be shared? And I think if you mind that and try to figure out, but we don't get a sense of any characters of who's doing this. We assume the speaker, but we don't know who the speaker is. And so that's hard to get at any kind of depth of sort of empathy. But then there's also no, the Saturnalia to me doesn't really add any insight into humanity or why we celebrate or anything you can take away in that regard. So what did we learn from this poem? How there's a sense of movement in that the scenes change, but we don't change. Whoever we is, like, the speaker doesn't change, the reader don't change, and we have to change. Like, a poem's a magic spell. Something has to be transformed. To me, nothing is transformed in this. So, and that's the whole point. So there's no point to the poem. And so finding that point, like minding yourself, like thinking about why it was you're compelled to write this, and try to get that part onto the page. It's a great setup for that because it's really vivid. The scenes are set well, but I just don't know what to take away from it. And I think that's the issue here. Let me see if everybody else is saying something similar, or am I way off the mark? Rahaf says, are they bragging they had sex? That's what I got from this poem. Yeah. Amy Dower-Slorzon says, I think the timestamps for a little journal entry. I want to get to the emotional experience of this day compressed into a little gem. Yeah, exactly. Lisa Seidenberg says, why is it seeking Athena? She was a goddess of wisdom or war, not Eros. I can't keep the Greek gods straight, so I don't know. Yeah. Kimmy Gibson Tran puts it this way, I don't think the poem needs to name the various gods. I do feel like something needs to happen at the party, or a more personal internal perspective could be built. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think you say Wagner, right? Am I just ridiculous? Yeah, I guess Wagner, not Wagner. Wagner always makes me think of fascism, says Ryan McCarty, and I can't square that with Saturnelia. That's interesting, too. Yeah. Shaver says we need a reason to care, bluntly. And yeah, that's true. We need a reason to care. So that's a summary of that. Like, why was this poem written? But nice writing. I think there's not a lot I would cut as far as description goes. I think the rusting pipes is the worst line in the poem. Everything else is relatively original. So that's it. Okay, let's move on to another poem. Next we have Johanna Zomers from Canada, Ontario, Canada. And any specific questions? No specific questions. 2 poems up. These will be the last 2 for today. This is Unnatural Causes. Here we go. Unnatural Causes. Mothers weep in Uvalde. I am insanely relieved that my son is safely dead of natural causes. I was spared the fear of wondering who would lift him from his wheelchair, find a place to hide if such a shooter had happened at his school when he was in grade 4. It would have fallen to his teacher's aid, the young girl who took him to the bathroom, lifted him, settled him on the toilet. Would she have taken the time to position him properly into a cranny beside a file cabinet, careful of his twisted arms with their stiffened muscles? Hard to do that calmly while the shooter is almost in the room. Or would he have been left sitting upright, alone in his candy-red wheelchair, his bony little chest offering an open target? If I was a mother in Uvalde, could I have explained this to him at bedtime when we discussed the day's difficulties? Would he have assured me, as he did, to persuade me to overlook dangers of carnival rides, other hazards? Don't worry, Mom. The shooter will see that I'm disabled, and he'll go around me. Because he knows I can't move out of his way. Yeah. Yeah, so this one... Yeah, there's some great details. As Emily Arnold Fernandez says, somebody says the candy red wheelchair, the bony little chest. Yeah, those are great. Yeah. Yeah, Peter says brutal. Brutal must have been so difficult to write. Jamie Thomas says I need a second read. Yeah, I gotta read it again. Yeah. Okay. I think, to me, and I don't understand, to me it's a lot. I mean, I think that I'm distracted by this. I'm insanely relieved that my son is safely dead of natural causes. That feels like a little hyperbolic to me in a way that doesn't live up to the rest of the poem. And maybe it's just the way that it's phrased that way. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of a shocking, and as Ryan McCarty says, the cut from relieved to that my son is already dead. It's a big, powerful leap. And, yeah. Desi Cochrane says, feels like it's using something heavily too cleverly. Or too heavily too cleverly, yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe it's a safely dead. That's what Sharon fronted. There's something a little bit that's like just too much. It's like over the top with this little bit for me. And the other poem is the rest of the poem is very honest and direct about it. Yeah, Kimberly Gibson Trent says, I disagree with Tim. I think the insanely relieved line really grounds this poem in the unbelievable reality we live in. Winston Munn says, this seems forced to a degree. No mother will ever feel relief there. Yeah, I don't know. It does. It feels, I mean, and maybe there's, responses may vary. To me, that one part feels just too over the top. It sort of takes me out of it makes me skeptical, I guess. And maybe there's a way to phrase it so it's not quite that. PMB says, mothers weep in Uvalde. I'm relieved my son is safely dead of natural causes. I was spared. Yeah. Rahaf says, I understand safely dead if you think of death as the end of her and his struggle with endless worry about his condition. Yeah. I'm not sure. Let's read the whole poem again, because I'm not quite sure about that line. And maybe it does work and maybe it doesn't. But let's go. Unnatural Causes is the title. I think the title could do a lot more. I think there could be a more interesting title. But mothers weep in Uvalde. I am insanely relieved that my son is safely dead of natural causes. I was spared the fear of wondering who would lift him from his wheelchair. Sorry, I lost my place. Find a place to hide if such a shooter had happened at his school when he was in grade 4. It would have fallen to his teacher's aid. The young girl who took him to the bathroom, lifted him, settled him on the toilet. Would she have taken the time to position him properly into a cranny beside a file cabinet, careful of his twisted arms with their stiffened muscles? Hard to do that calmly while the shooter is almost in the room. Or would he have been left sitting upright, alone in his candy-red wheelchair, his bony little chest offering an open target? If I was a mother in Uvalde, could I have explained this to him at bedtime? When he discussed the day's difficulties, would he have assured me, as he did to persuade me to overlook dangers of carnival rides, other hazards? Don't worry, Mom. The shooter will see that I'm disabled and he'll go around me, because he knows I can't move out of his way. So I do think the poem is very powerful. And I think the poem gets into a real authentic voice. And I think maybe that's what, in addition to feeling too much, it doesn't feel like it fits with a voice. It feels forced out too. And I think maybe what I would do here is make this somehow the title. Maybe phrase it slightly differently. I know people like that line break and question other line breaks in the poems, but I think this could be the title. And I'm insane. And then the title, then the fact that it's like that like dissects it from the voice and makes it feel like the inauthentic part of that makes it, it doesn't feel wrong. And then if you did that, you could say, you could start out, mothers weep in Uvalde. I was spared the fear. And you could start out that way. And I think the poem I think it feels a little more, a little stronger that way. So I think that works. I think that's what I would do. I would make this somehow the title. I was spared the fear of wondering who would lift him from his wheelchair, to find a place to hide if such a shooter had happened at his school when he was in grade 4. There's a clunkiness too in this section. I think you could smooth out that a little bit. Had happened at his school when he was in grade 4. You can just say, if such a shooting had happened in his school in 4th grade or whatever. And then it's half the words. There's a way that there's too wordy in that section. There's another section that's like that too, I'll point out. It would have fallen to his teacher's aid, the young girl who took him to the bathroom, lifted him, settled him on the toilet. So those are all really intimate, concrete details. We can really see that. It's not overly wrought. It's just there. So I think that's great. Would she have taken the time to position him properly into a cranny beside a file cabinet? Very nice. Again, the cranny beside a file cabinet, really great detail. This is why the poem works so well. That's really strong, concrete, simple details. Careful of his twisted arms with their stiffened muscles. And so, the twisted arms with their stiffened muscles, again, great little simple details. Hard to do that calmly while the shooter is almost in the room. And again, that you can feel the fear and the terror kind of coming in like the shooter is almost here. So that's great too. Or would he have been left sitting upright alone in his candy red wheelchair, his bony little chest offering an open target? And this is another great image, really powerful in that section. As somebody already pointed out, I think it was Dick Westheimer. If I Was a Mother in Uvalde, a good throwback there. Maybe make it this, If I Was a Mother in Uvalde. So above, I wanted this part to be the title. And I think that, you could make it start, If I Was a Mother in Uvalde, then that would become more of a refrain in the second half. So maybe that could be the first line too, If I Was a Mother in Uvalde. And then you would be calling back to the beginning and making the poem feel more shaped and circular. Could I have explained this to him at bedtime when we discussed the day's difficulties? Would he have assured me as he did? And this is the part that's a little too clunky too, as he did to persuade me to. It's that the 2-2, those two twos, and then overlook dangers of carnival rides, other hazards. I think this could be both sort of smoothed out and fleshed out a little. We could get a little bit more of that, other dangers, not just, carnival rides is one of a list of many, and I think we could hear a little bit more of those things. Yeah. And then, don't worry, Mom, the shooter will see that I'm disabled and he'll go around me because he knows I can't move out of his way. And that's such heartbreaking, great way to end it. I think that we need a closing quote there. I think that really works. Yeah. As Mary Keating says, I think this poem brings up that there is usually little emergency plans in effect for disabled people. Yeah, I think that's a great, a side thing to be bringing up. It's so true, yeah. And so a really great poem, I think, just a little bit to clean up. All right, and then let's take a look at the second poem. Retirement Residence. Yeah, well, maybe we should talk about a little bit more. So somebody had an interesting comment. It's that the insanely relieved is somebody, where is this? Brian O'Sullivan says, maybe I know it's insane, but I believed. I think the problem with it, the insanely relieved, is that it can be read as just very relieved. Yeah. I think maybe just being relieved is enough, though. Like, I think calling out the insanity maybe is the problem for me. I think maybe just dropping the insanely and letting it be what it is itself, and all the complications of what that emotion would be. We just talked about, I think it was on the poetry space. I don't know where we were. We talked about Tiana Clark's Equilibrium, and which won the Rattle Poetry Prize a while ago. And the first line in that poem is, took me 30 years to say I'm glad I don't pass for white. And the simple, direct bluntness of that statement, I'll throw it up on the screen really, really quick, but it took me 30 years to say I'm glad I don't pass for white. Like the simple directness, there's no hiding behind it. It's just, it took me to say this. I'm glad, And that's the kind of thing where the poem would be well served, I think, to just say it and not do the safely dead and insanely relieved, but just say, I'm relieved, and jump right into it. Katie says, yeah, that was the poetry space that just came out today. Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, Shape of Soup is insane, just isn't poetically effective. So that's the thing. I think that's it. It's a little bit off. And I would just make that the title, though. I would somehow format it a little bit differently, maybe without the insanely, find out a little bit, wait, but make that the title, and then jump in with the, in Volley Mother's Wheat, but I was spared the fear, and go from there. And I think the poem is really close. And then 2 little lines to clean up, and that's it. Okay. Retirement residence. It was in her head this morning, Dolores wailing of guns and bombs. It's in her head. It's in her head. If only she had guns and bombs, she'd explode them right here, right now, in this circle of zombies slouched in wheelchairs. Facing the television on its swing out arm high on the wall, heave a live grenade at the Botox pair on the screen, fake laughing through their banter, killing time for zombies, day after day, on the plastic screen, bomb their commercials, blow the toilets filled with swirling blue water to smithereens, along with false teeth smiles, and the new model cars speeding up mountainsides on blind curves with happy children and dogs in the spacious back seats. She'd mow down the dads at the wheel, and the smiling moms unloading groceries from the roomy hatchback machine gun, the doctor in his fake white lab coat with his diagnosis and his zombie pills, and strafe this residence with its lying name written in bullshit zombie lettering, and her lying zombie family who drove her here, lured her inside, and threw away the key. Yeah. Where half says I like this poem. I like this poem too. Yeah, the details are great. Retirement residence sets the scene. It was in her head this morning, Dolores wailing of guns and bombs. It's in her head. It's in her head. If only she had guns and bombs, she'd explode them right here and now in this circle of zombies slouched in wheelchairs. Yeah, I think this is great. I'm not sure, yeah. Lisa Seidenberg says too many zombies. I like the way the zombies keep coming, Yeah, everybody's liking this poem. I think it's a good one. I'm trying to think too. Manny says nice, but why so many zombies? Well, I think, I like Sheba Soup says nice use of repetition. I didn't problem. I mean, there are a lot of zombies, but it's sort of a rant, a sort of unhinged rant, but in a place where it feels like everybody's a zombie and you don't want to be one too. I think there's a lot of emotional weight to that. I think it works really well. It's Kimberly, and I guess too, it's a great point. Kimberly Gibson Trent says zombies keep coming as they are apt to do. Yeah, like it's like that. It's like the zombies are just like in a zombie movie. They just keep coming. Yeah. And Rahaf says, is the speaker an old person? Yeah, I mean that's my interpretation. It's someone who is taken there because at the end, let's see, his fake white lab coat with his diagnosis and his zombie pills, and strafe this residence with its lying name written in bullshit zombie lettering over lying zombie family who drove her here. So somebody drove her to the residence, and that's they're all zombies is what she's saying. Everybody's a zombie, and I think that's right. The only thing that threw away the key, I think that isn't it's a cliched kind of expression in a really fresh, interesting poem, and I think ending on that, I think. Locked her up and threw away the key is an expression. And I think that takes a little bit of the power away from the originality of the poem. I think that's the one bit I might change. Drove her here, lured her inside, and I don't know what, but something a little bit more surprising than that. Winston Munn says the title is too modest, I think. Maybe title it Nursing Home. Well, she mentions that, too, with the fake name, wherever it was. This residence with its lying name written in bullshit zombie lettering. And I think it is they're calling it a retirement residence. And I think that's why it makes a good title. Yeah. Yeah, Sheba Soup says an 8 the key. Yeah, something a little bit surprising, exactly. 8 the key would be much better. Just Steve Horrell says and left. Yeah, lured inside and left. Or it could be a callback to zombie type things too. I don't know, it's just that the last line doesn't quite feel, it's not terrible. And the poem is still good with this last line. I just think it's the one place that we can improve and should improve. The rest, I love the way it just picks up in this sort of rant that, Yeah. Jamie Summit says, I like the urgency. Yeah, John Victoria says, I like the way that only to read this poem aloud is ranting. The way it just keeps racing on with no place to take a breath. Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really good poem. I like it. I would work on the ending a little bit, and that's it. So, yeah, I love you can feel the anger and the franticness of it too. The desperation in there, which is really, really touching in a way. Even though it's a rant and it's anger, it's still really sad at the same time. I think really powerful capturing that experience. So thanks for sharing that. Really interesting about retirement residence. Once again, the poet was Johanna Zomers from Ontario, Canada. Thanks for sharing that, Joanna, and everybody who shared poems today. I'm just going to wrap up the show. So hope everybody enjoyed it. If you're still here and haven't clicked the like button yet, please do. That always helps more people watch it later. Let's see. Coming up on the Rattlecast, we already mentioned, but I can mention again, a new episode of the Poetry Space dropped this week. It's another two-parter. Part one, we had a discussion on how to make poems interesting and what that even means, and a really good sort of basic guide to making your poems worth being attended to, which is what we want them to be. So check that out. Find the Poetry Space anywhere poems are produced, or podcasts are caught, or something. Okay, and then this week's guest on the Rattlecast is going to be... No, wait, that's not right. That was a couple weeks ago. This week's guest is going to be Lou Watts. Now, Lou Watts, if you're a subscriber in print, you have the conversation with Lou Watts and his Hyben from the Hyben section. Lou Watts is one of the, really, I think, the best Hyben poet. There are, some other contenders, too, that are wonderful. But Lou Watts is among the best. He's got some really wonderful creative Hyben. His book, Ira, about his mother's death when he was young, has a whole bunch of Hyben, too. It's mostly Hyben with some haiku interspersed as well. Really powerful poem, winner of the Touchstone Award last year from the Haiku Foundation for the best book. And he was interviewed, and a really, interesting, tough childhood growing up in Splot in the United Kingdom, a really small, poor town. Got out of there through fly fishing and cave spelunking, became a geologist, had a whole big career in that, and then became a writer too. So he's a really fascinating person in many levels. Lou Watts. That's 287 Rattlecast. The prompt for this week was, I gotta pull it up. The prompt was, it was something about phobias. Write a poem about a specific type of phobia you do not personally have, but know of someone that does. So that's your prompt for this week. Write about a specific type of phobia you do not personally have, but know of someone who does. That's your prompt. The guest is Lou Watts, Rattlecast 287, Sunday, March 30th, the regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope you have a great weekend. In the meantime, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.